Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the CART. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Peter Antill. I work for Cranfield University over at the Defence Academy over in Shrivenham. About 10 years ago or so, a couple of friends and myself set up a military history website, which is called the Military History Encyclopedia on the web. And we basically write material about military history, source photographs, look at maps, all that sort of thing. And there must be clear of probably about 2.5 million words on the site now. But one of the subjects I was interested in writing about was what if. I've always been interested in the alternate history, what if scenarios, and the two I really wanted to look at one was called Operation Downfall, which was the planned Allied invasion of Japan towards the end of World War II. And that was made up of Operation Olympic and Operation Coronet, one being the invasion of the southernmost island called Kyushu, and the other being the invasion of Honshu, which is the main Japanese island. And the other, Operation Sealion, it's something that's been written about for years. There's been speculation for all that time, would it be successful, wouldn't it? What are the challenges the Germans faced? That sort of thing. But in the context of the auxiliary units, I like to look at it as the reason behind the reason we're here today. We're obviously here celebrating 70 years of since the formation of this unit, with the brave men and women who were prepared to stand up and, if invasion had come, to do their duty, to try and slow the German advance and do their bit to cause chaos and stuff. But I just thought I'd put a short presentation together. It certainly is only short because I want to leave as much time as possible to Bill's talk on the auxiliary units. And that's why I called it a primer. Just give you a few facts, a few dates, and just have a look at some of the forces that might have been involved. Okay, just as a quick background, I'm sure you know all this sort of stuff. These are the events that happened early in the war, right from you've got the invasion of Poland, 1st September 1939. This heralded a new form of warfare, which was anybody? Blitzkrieg, yeah. Blitzkrieg, which is German for
lightning war.
Lightning war, yeah, that's okay. And it's basically a combined arms form of warfare, utilising tanks, motorised infantry, mechanised artillery, air power, paratroopers, all that sort of thing. And the campaign in Poland was relatively short. We therefore declared war, us and France, followed by the Commonwealth on 3rd of September. Now, this was then followed by a period called the Phony War, which was broken in early April 1940 by the German invasion of Denmark and Norway. I'm sure Bill will know the code name.
Yeah. Keep going, Peter, I'm with you, go on.
Yeah, right.
Tell them about Gubbins and Norway.
No, right. No, that's your.
Okay.
Is it Weserübungs or something?
Weserübung.
That's the one. And then, quite soon after, you've got the invasion of the Low Countries and France. Is that Falgelb? Falgelb, yeah. Case Yellow.
Yes.
Case Yellow, yeah. Where you had the sort of breakthrough by, was it Guderian? It was Guderian's panzers through the Ardennes and then splitting the Allied armies in two, with the panzers reaching the channel at Aberystwyth at about the 20th of May. And then you had Dunkirk, British evacuation, also known as Operation Dynamo, where the BEF and also substantial numbers of Allied troops, both French and Belgian, were evacuated there. So that's the background. Just give you a bit more detailed timeline of sort of events that are sort of more closely related to Sealion itself. Now, up to November 1939, there was no real, concentrated German focus on, the possibility of invading the UK. I'm not sure what they hoped. Again, I think Hitler was there's some argument in the historic literature as to how. I think the main opinion here is it was slightly of an Anglophile. He didn't really want to completely destroy Britain and its empire, because he viewed it as a counterpoint to the Soviet Union. And if he did destroy it, or occupied us and it fell apart, Germany wouldn't be the one to really benefit. It would mainly be the United States and Japan, for example. And so there's no real main consideration given to invading us. I think the main focus was on using air and sea blockade to force us to the negotiating table. Now, this actually changed in November of that year, with both the Oberkommando der Marine, the Naval High Command, and Oberkommando des Heers, which is the Army High Command, both undertaking a study as to the feasibility of a landing. Now, this is just sort of theoretical look at what the problems and challenges might be. The Army study was codenamed Northwest. Now, in January, the head of the German Navy, a guy called Erich Raeder, responded to the study, and he pointed out many of the difficulties that would be faced with this. At the time, they were looking at moving the troops from the Baltic, so the northern German ports, right across, and possibly landing in the east of the UK, East Anglia, where you've got very flat beaches, a lot of flat terrain inland, it's good tank country. But the problems being the length of the transit between the North German ports and there is very long, and so you've got extended times of moving the troops there, and once they're landed, moving supplies and reinforcements there. So and again, it was emphasised. Raeder, with the backing of Hitler, they still preferred to use air and naval power to isolate the UK and force a negotiated settlement. Then on the 21st of May, Raeder again quizzed Hitler about the possibility of conducting a landing, and again received something of a negative reaction. But the OKM, for no better reason than they wanted to be prepared in case events changed or whatever, still continued conducting studies into that. And I think the one they conducted that month was called Study England. But one of the changes was because at this time, this is only a day after the tanks had reached the Channel at Aberystwyth and split the Allied armies. So it was the German position in northwest Europe was changing very rapidly, changing very much in their favour. So it looked as if the Germans would have access to a lot of the ports along the Channel, especially Holland, Belgium, possibly northern France. So the study recommended, they're still very lukewarm, the Navy, about it, but they recommended if an attempt was made to use a cross-channel route rather than a North Sea route, because you're shortening the lines of transport by a huge amount. It's only 20 miles across the Channel, something like that. So it's far easier to, and if you've got a narrow channel that cuts across, it's far easier to defend as well. You can sow minefields, you can use the Luftwaffe to fight up, hopefully interdict any sort of attempt to interfere with the supplies. And about 10th of July, the Battle of Britain thus begins. Now, a lot of people think the Battle of Britain it was a major success for us. It should really be viewed as the Luftwaffe's attempt to gain air superiority over southern England in order to launch Operation Sealion. It also highlights that there's quite a bit of inter-service rivalry between the various commanders, as we know now. Basically, the Army, of all the three services, the Army were probably the most in favour of conducting Operation Sealion. This was followed by the Luftwaffe, who were lukewarm about it. They basically thought they could defeat Britain on their own, and the Navy was dead against it. They really were. Because in the previous studies, radar had looked at the disparity of naval forces, and thought we've got a little hope of protecting the sea lanes and providing the necessary lift, for the troops going over. But so that was followed by the famous directive, the Fury Directive number 16, which was issued on the 16th of July 1940, where Hitler stated, "I've decided to prepare a landing operation against England, and if necessary, to carry it out. The aim of this operation will be to eliminate the English homeland as a base for the prosecution of the war against Germany." I'm sure most of you have come across that. And a lot of people have highlighted the sort of the end of the first sentence, "and if necessary, to carry it out." Some people question how committed was Hitler to this operation. Again, there's a debate between those who think he was strongly against it, and those who think, well, it was mainly after a certain time, after sort of July 1940, when Hitler's attention starts to refocus on the East against the main ideological enemy, the Soviet Union. He mainly used all the preparations as political pressure to bring Britain to the negotiating table, along with the Blitz and bombing of the civilian targets and stuff. But that's a debate that's been going for years. Next we have, a few days later, we have the OKH, which was the Army High Command. That's the Army High Command. Published a plan looking at landing on a broad front. Now, this is a 237-mile broad front ranging from the Thames estuary to Lion Bay in Dorset. It's Dorset, isn't it? Now, radar was absolutely aghast at this, and literally threw it back in the Army's face, and there's no way on this earth we're going to be able to support that sort of frontage. We just haven't got the troops. We haven't got the naval resources in order to not only carry the troops over that sort of distance, but also to protect it against the RAF and Royal Navy. So going back to the drawing board, OKH comes back to him on the 21st of August and submits a scale-back plan for the equivalent of 10 divisions landing in 4 days between Ramsgate and Brighton, which is 100 miles. Now, if you think, clock forward 4 years to Overlord, and with over 2 years of planning and the industrial capacity of America and Britain combined, we just about had enough lift to put our first wave of troops in 1, perhaps 2 days. The German Navy only had the resources to land the first wave, let alone the second or third or the follow-up reinforcements, in 4 days on a restricted frontage of only about 100 miles. Radar, who's at this point just hoping that it's going to be cancelled, amends the plan once again to reduce it even further to about, I think it was about 60 miles, the frontage. And so this re-revised plan would have the lead elements of something 9 divisions from 2 armies, which were part of Army Group A? Army Group A, yeah. Which is Strauss's 9th Army and Bush's 16th Army, would land between Folkestone and Brighton. And these would be supported by 250 amphibious tanks. It's where they basically sealed the tank and provided it with snorkels so it could breathe, provide air for the engine. So it's very similar actually to the Allies who had to the DD tanks and that, where they launched them off. And I think there was one quite tragic incident. I can't remember which beach it was, but they all foundered. Was it Omaha? Was it Utah? Yeah, and all the crews drowned, which was so. I'm not sure if the Panzerwaffe, the sort of German tank crews, were particularly looking forward to undertaking that little operation. But they're also supported by 2 of the more elite units in the German army: the 7th Airborne, which is actually the 7th Flieger division, and the 22nd Luftlander, the air landing divisions. Now these would be tasked with seizing important targets inland, things like bridges, transport points, airfields, that sort of thing, possibly ports, things like Dover, Folkestone. And so by the time we get to, and all the time this is going on, the Germans, they're not only finalising their plans, they're conducting exercises on the French and Belgian coast. They're looking to modify barges and that, so they could act in a limited way as amphibious assault vessels by sort of cutting off the bows, and then so they've got some sort of ramp and converting like steamers and that, so they could hold sort of heavy equipment, things like tanks, half-tracks, artillery, that sort of thing. So by the time we get to about mid-September, the Navy has actually finished assembling the shipping for its initial lift, which is quite a feat actually, considering that they've only had sort of 2.5 months to get all this stuff ready. And by the time you get to sort of late September, now 26th, 27th, already there was sort of 2 or 3 sources. This was the most likely date for a landing, as it coincided both with both what the Army wanted and what the Navy wanted. The Army wanted dawn landings on an ebbing tide, and the Navy wanted partial moonlight to light the way, because they'd be coming across in daylight, hopefully timed correctly just so they hit the beaches at dawn. And finally, if it all come to pass and it had been successful, the Germans were looking at by the time we get to about early November, about 6 weeks after the landing, the Germans plan to have something like 23 divisions within the UK, which is more or less the entire 9th and 16th armies. Now, just to give you a sort of heads up of what the sort of German command structures would look like. This is the Supreme Command. We've got Adolf Hitler at the top there, both Führer and Supreme Commander of the German Armed Forces. We've got the High Command, what's known as the High Command of the German Armed Forces, the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht. Quite a lot of people use Wehrmacht when they see sort of German troops on the TV, particularly it's during the early war years, Blitzkrieg, they say, oh, it's the Wehrmacht. The Wehrmacht was technically the name for the entire armed forces, whereas the army, which meant ground troops, was called the Heer, Das Heer. And this is the sort of overall control mechanism Hitler used, and the 2 sort of head guys in there were Keitel and Jodl. You've probably come across those names before. And below OKW were the 3 commands of the individual services. You've got OKH, which is the Army High Command, headed by von Brauchitsch. OKM, which is the Kriegsmarine High Command, Naval High Command, headed by Raeder. And then the Luftwaffe High Command, headed by Reichsmarschall Göring. Okay, the order of battle for Sealion, finally, after a lot of to and fro and negotiation, ended up like this. You've got, say, the main forces, the main ground forces, which would be used, were going to be drawn from Army Group A, which is under von Rundstedt. And these were made up of the 9th and 16th armies, the 9th being under Strauss and the 16th under Busch. And it was split, because they were the amount of forces involved far exceeded the amount of lift they had. It was split into effectively 4 waves. The first main wave is I've listed here. There, and that's made up of the 2 corps from each army, the 38th and the 8th from the 9th Army, and the 13th and 7th from the 16th. And these are to be, and it's made up of the 9 divisions previously mentioned here. These will be the first wave divisions. But as I said, even then they didn't have enough lift to move all the troops and equipment in one go. So they'd basically be put ashore over a space of about 3 days, when they hoped to have in the region of 130,000 men ashore, just in time to meet the expected British counterattack, which is what we were looking to amass forces in and conduct a counterattack the beach heads in 3 to 5 days possibly. So the Navy calculated there just enough lift to move these guys in about 3 days to meet the expected British counterattack. What the the 16th Army divisions, 4 divisions here, would be landed, would be the primary, landed more or less incomplete, whereas the divisions for the 9th Army would be, they'd only have lead elements initially. They'd be then take a secondary sort of lower priority. These would be followed by a second wave here, 3 Corps, a third wave of 3 Corps, and then you'd have a 4th wave, which the Germans could draw upon if reasons necessitated it, from the OKH reserve, and also some units from the 6th Army, which was further to the west by near Brest. And yeah, also, as I've also mentioned, the first wave had additional assets. The 7th Flieger, 22nd Luftlander, they had the amphibious tanks, and he also had a number of commandos, the Brandenburgers, which would be sort of going, like special forces really going in and sort of blow things up, take important points. Okay, on the flip side, this is all about for both the Luftwaffe and the Kriegsmarine. The Luftflotte 2, which was under Albert Kesselring, would support the 16th Army. That was made up of 2 Flieger Corps and a flak corps. Luftflotte 3 under Speer would support the 9th Army, and that had 3 Flieger Corps and 1 flak corps. Flak corps would be, some elements of the flak corps would come ashore to protect the landings as well, so to provide air defence, anti-air defence. The Kriegsmarine was split into a number of elements, first being the sort of the main surface units under Loeser. Now at this point the German situation had become even more acute, since they'd lost half their available destroyers in the battle for Norway around Narvik. And a number of their heavy fleet units had been damaged in action against the British in the intervening time. So they only had something like 10 destroyers, a couple of heavy cruisers, 1 light cruiser, and some flotillas of E-boats, which are equivalent of our motor torpedo boats, and submarines to protect the landings. And then you've got, there were the 4 transport fleets set up, B, C, D and E, coming from different ports such as Dunkirk, Ostend, Rotterdam, Calais, Antwerp, Boulogne and Le Havre, transporting the initial elements. And I'm rushing through this quite a bit, but if anyone wants a copy of this, it's available on our website and the downloads page, so you can download it and peruse it at your leisure. Now I've just copied some maps from a couple of publications, one being Ronald Wheatley's book, Operation Sealion, which is this book here, and it's probably still one of the best books on Operation Sealion, as this was done at the same time as the official UK history of the Second World War, and Wheatley, I think he did it as his MA thesis, actually, but it was done as an adjunct to Basil Collier's book, if anyone's come across that. Home Defence. It was part of the official UK history series of World War II, and he did it. It was quite thick, it's about thick, and he did a volume specifically on home defence in 1940. Not only looking at air defence in terms of the Battle of Britain, but looking at anti-invasion preparations and things like that. And Ronald Wheatley wrote that book as there have been quite a few books since then, but this book's got the main distinction was written at the time when a lot of the participants were still alive and available for interview. And so it just shows some of the routes, the shipping routes coming down here, so the shipping was concentrated. And the Germans planned a number of minefields scattered into part of the North Sea and all along the Channel here to defend the flanks of the landings in association with the Luftwaffe, of course, who would have hopefully achieved air superiority. And this is a map showing the general German dispositions in northern France and part of Belgium. We've got the main divisions arrayed here, along here in this area, and the main routes extending from the various ports, with the main target being southeast coast. Yeah. And this little map up here shows the second and third wave divisions, how they were spread around France, and obviously as sort of the timetable moved up, they'd move from those positions up to the coast, ready for embarkation. This map shows sort of landing areas. Here you've got the 16th Army Road here, the 9th Army Road here. As this highlights, the main emphasis would have been putting on the 16th Army units there, with only the lead elements initially from these divisions here to push up into Kent. So they would have a slightly lower priority, but hopefully later on they'd start, once they'd cleared these guys, they'd start moving the rest of these units in to form a solid line. This was the sort of first army objective here, well, the main army group A's objective here, running from Deal round to just south of Canterbury, all the way through to Uckfield and then to Rottingdean, with the first main Army High Command objective being here, and across there like that. So from just past Portsmouth to near Guildford and then through to Gravesend. The second operational objective to the north, straight line, Malden, Oxford. And this is a photograph of one of the genuine Army Group, 16th Army operations map. The maps, the Imperial War Museum has got a set of these, so I contacted the historical archive, the archive historian there, and went up a few weeks ago to take pictures of them. So these are the sort of genuine maps. I just showed this as an example, just showing sort of German planning. There you've got sort of routes coming in, the initial positions of the divisions, and where the advanced lines are. So, and I think we've got access to on Flickr.
Yeah, on Flickr. Yeah.
They're on Flickr. They're on a secret page on Flickr. So if anyone wants to view them, just let us know, and it's been put on a secret page because they are technically still copyright. They're under copyright. Their copyright's owned by the Imperial War Museum. We've put them on a secret page, but if anyone wants details, let us know, and I'll get those to you, so you can have a look at the actual operations maps. Okay, just did a quick page on what occupation might mean. Basically, in the autumn of 1940, SS Gruppenführer Reinhard Heydrich, who was chief of the Reich's main security office. Bill?
Yeah.
Reich's main security office, how do you pronounce that?
Yeah. Where are we? Sorry, I was.
I jumped on you there. It's okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. Reichssicherheitsamt.
RSHA.
Yes, RSHA. Right. Security.
Yeah, it's the main security office for the Third Reich, and it's made up of the SD, which was the Sicherheitsdienst, the SS intelligence service, the Gestapo, Geheimstaatspolizei, and the Kripo, which is the criminal police. It's probably criminal special branch sort of thing, yeah. So it's on the 17th of September, which is around the middle of when the Germans were really sort of gearing up to put these measures in place. He issued a document appointing a guy called SS Standartenführer Professor Franz Alfred Sitz as his representative in Great Britain. Now his mission was to, quote, to combat with the requisite means all anti-German organisations, institutions, opposition and opposition groups which can be seized in England, to prevent the removal of all available material and to centralise and safeguard it for future exploitation. I designate the capital, London, as the location of your headquarters as representative of the Chief of the Security Police and SD, and I authorise you to set up small action groups, so known as Einsatzgruppen, in other parts of Great Britain as well as the situation dictates and the necessity arises. There's a couple of lists which I'm sure are quite famous. One is Sonderverbundungsliste GB, which is roughly translated as the Special Search List Great Britain. And this was known as the Black Book, Blacklist.
Yes.
And it's a list of 2,820 prominent Britons to have been arrested in the case of a successful invasion. This was compiled by Walter Schellenberg. And an equivalent list called Informationsheft GB, Special Wanted List, Great Britain, which contained information on the establishments, institutions such as embassies, universities, newspaper offices, and Freemason lodges. Now, there's quite a bit of debate on how repressive or otherwise the German occupation of the UK would have been. Some people think it would have been very repressive. Other people think that it might have been conducted more in line with what happened on the Channel Islands, for example, where the Germans, obviously it's still an occupying army, but they were, let's say, they weren't the best buddies, but they're relatively lenient if you compare what happened in Eastern Europe and Russia, for example. If anyone wants any sort of further information on what the occupation policies might be, there's some there's 2 or 3 books I can recommend. First is one, Arthur Ward's Resisting the Nazi Invader. There's Norman Longmate's If Britain Had Fallen. Len Dayton's, there's 2 novels as well. There's Len Dayton's SSGB and Gordon Stevens' And All the King's Men. And finally there's the book by Walter Schellenberg, who was the main compiler of the Special Search List. It's called Invasion 1940, the Nazi Invasion Plan for Britain. Now, as counterpoint to that, we planned our defence and sort of resistance. I've categorised in four ways. First was a set of static defences, for example, the GHQ line, which this comprised of coastal defences, stock lines, defensive nodes, to physically impede the Germans as they invaded Britain and tried to advance in. Secondly, you had the regular British Army, which was being held to counterattack the landings as soon as possible. The Home Guard, formerly known as the LDV, somebody got some comparisons there, and fourthly, the reason why we're here now, is this weekend was the auxiliary units. And just as one final note, if anyone who wants any further reading, again, there's two books I can recommend. The first being Ronald Wheatley's book, but the second, on Sealion, is this book by a guy called Peter Schenk. It goes into a lot of detail, a lot of goodies on the plans, the timeline, the designs for the landing barges, what they were doing to modify them for landing, all that sort of thing. So I can recommend both of these books for you. And that's it. Thank you.
And most of these on our shop page now?
Yes, they're all. If you want to sort of have a browse through, they're all available on our website on the shop page. If you want to go through.
Amazon links, aren't they?
Yeah, they're linked through to Amazon. So if you go through and buy something, we're linked with Amazon, so we get a little bit of commission, which will go towards our research.
At 10p.